Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Tone Deaf Monk. Today's video is sponsored by Kilo. He's my dog, and he had to give up his weekly toy so that I could afford to bring you the TruthEar Hola. Now, I'm gonna go a little quicker today. I don't want to make this one a massively long one, but I'm also gonna let you know that I'm completely changing up my format. A lot of community feedback. Shout out to HPB. Thanks too. He kind of nailed it into my head that without the context of what I'm reviewing, songs, library, and what I hear, it's not as useful as it could be. So, just a little bit. I mean, you typically see, I'm just pulling this thing up here from websites when you go to look at stuff and they spew out stuff. Uh, Driver, 11 millimeter dynamic driver, PU suspension, LCP dome, blah, 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 blah. I know what that means. And so just a little bit about what I'm going to bring you today on the TruthEar Ola, just to give you a little bit of context of why it is what it is and how it sounds the way it does. So I'm going to take their techie stuff and I'm going to break it down a little bit for you, especially if you're just getting into this hobby, this rabbit hole, and this is going to be your first IM, and hopefully it helps you determine whether this is going to be worthy of your money. I mean, the Ola is selling for $18 right now. To some, that's a lot. To others, it's not. But let's treat everything the same. So when they're talking about a single dynamic 11 millimeter driver, the typical we see is 10 mil, so 1 millimeter bigger, with a PU suspension. That means polyurethane. It's basically foam. Foam has the ability to be very lightweight, to keep its shape. It's typically quite durable, except for when it hits UV. Well, in this case, it's buried in a shell, so that's not really going to be a problem. And it's a good material to use, and it plays into how the Ola replays music. So you put everything together. It's like the sum of all parts. You got the suspension. Hold on for a second. Okay, back here is a little 3-inch driver, obviously a little bit bigger than what's in your IM. This guy uses this is the suspension. So this is what goes around the cone, and it tries to keep the cone linear when it's moving back and forth. There's advantages, disadvantages of different materials. In this case, it's butyl rubber. When it gets super warm, this would tend to lose its shape a little bit. So that's this one. Well, now they're so the Ola's using a foam. It's a great choice of material, and it again it plays into why the Ola sounds like it does. So the cone they're talking about now is a liquid crystal polymer cone, PCU cone. So here is a paper cone. This isn't going to do well if it was in your ear for moisture. I got a bunch of these running in my car, actually, so that's where this one came from. And so the cone that the Ola uses is really light, really stiff. And again, that's playing a part into why it sounds the way it does. And it's a good choice. The whole thing, it's a really well thought out IEM because they put the parts and made it, I guess they put the parts together with the thought process of this is my end game tuning. That's the tuning that they want. So let's use these things. And it totally makes sense if you look at it. They're talking about their N52 magnets, so a really powerful magnet, and that's going to give it the higher efficiency. And the same thing as the surround. If you use a lighter surround, it's easier to drive. Again, so pretty ideal. They're talking about the 28 ohm resistance, how hard it's to drive, the sensitivity, how loud can it get with a certain amount of power, the shells, the 2-pin cable, blah blah blah. Anyway, enough of the techie stuff. Moving on to more of now the subjective part, and I wanted to change up my format to be better. And so I want to share my impressions as my ears. And again, this is a subjective review. So for what I hear. So I had some tracks, and I'm using these tracks to express how I hear this IEM. And you can go to these tracks and see if you can hear the same things that I hear. So a couple of them, and I'm going to rattle them off here just to give you some more context. So the first one, Bring Me Some Water by Melissa Etheridge. I use this, I love her voice. First of all, it's kind of got that raspy voice. And again, I want to see the edge in her voice. I want to hear the edge in her voice, and how I think it should be, right? So the Ola replayed this, I think, with the correct edge and timbre in her voice. I think it did a good job. The guitars sounded natural. They were clean. Second track, another female vocals, Tracy Chapman, Fast Car. I love her voice again, and I like the way they record this track. I've seen Miss Chapman a few times live, so in my mind, again, my replay of how I think her voice sounded to me then, right? So I was blessed to see her a few times up front and close as well. So, and again, here I thought the Ola did a really good job, but now I love to have a little bit more weight to her voice. And again, that's just the tuning of the Ola and the driver and all those previous things I was talking about, making that sound. So I think it did a good job. I wanted more weight. The Rolling Stones, Painted Black. I love this track again. I use it for the sense of stage and placement. 28 seconds in, you can hear the mic change, and Mick must be turning his head in a way that he's more direct into the mic, where he may have sounded like he was singing maybe a bit off to the side, and you can kind of tell that, and that's what I use in this track. Again, I'm going to say the Ola did a pretty good job, definitely helping bringing some micro dynamics. Now, micro dynamics are the very small details in a track. How they play into a track and how they change the emotion of the track, it gives it a bit of the fun factor. So Ola did a pretty good job there. It wasn't the best replay I've heard from an IEM, of course, but it was good. It was enjoyable. Now for some 80s. House of Broken Love and Rock Me from Great White. I love this band and this music. I love the 80s kick. From the beginning of the first track of House of Broken Love, how fast, how solid it is. What's the decay like? Like, is it big and boomy, or does it actually hit and has a nice kind of weighted tone to it that makes it sound, the kick drum sound natural? It should hit in your chest. I mean, there is, in the 80s track, we loved our bass, right? Rock Me was the same thing, but this time I'm listening to the bass guitars and it goes pretty low, boom, 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 right? and that's what I'm listening to for in these two tracks. Test score, the Ola, gotta say, and it's not a fault, I would say, of the Ola, but this is where you're gonna start seeing cracks in its playback. The TruthEar does have, which is really surprising, a decent amount of playback in the low areas. Okay, and it's played back with the correct tonality. The problem is I it it just needs more. It deserves more. I think the Ola failed to produce those tracks the way they were intended. At the bass head levels, it probably should be. Of course, on the flip side, if you think about how it did, the bass didn't then overpower the vocals, and then you could. I mean, there was a compromise there. Yes, it wasn't overpowering, but you could hear the vocals better. That's the trade-off of the thicker mid bass. So, uh, Chemical Mentalist, the Crystal Method bass, more fat bass, tons of it. Uh, how does it how does it do? I mean, is there gonna put a big smile on your face or a big ugly fat poo emoji? And it gave me an eargasm, really, full stop. Fantastic. I just I listened to it like 5 times in a row because I just had this huge shit-eating grin on my face, and I loved it. I kept actually going louder, and I thought, okay, well, if there's one venue of music that would work really well for the Ola, if their tracks are like this, then heaven, it's fantastic. So, full on. Another one, It's Time, Labyrinth, Sia, Diplo. And again, this is a very different track. I use this one because there's three different unique voices that come together in this track. At higher volumes, I find it could get sibilant with certain IMs. The Ola did it very well. Plays with good emotion. It gets real close to my comfort zone on sibilants. I am a bit treble sensitive, but it made it a pretty fun track. So bravo there. All my friends are here. Joe Satriani. If you don't know who he is, check him out. In this track, you can hear Joe kind of playing dead center. It's busy. It's very separated, left and right. Different licks add in, and he brings you back to center. Some crazy, crazy hard to play descending A major. Joe Satriani described this song as a rock guitarist trying to control a wild beast. How'd the Yola do with this one? Did it get eaten? I don't think so. Actually, it's Joe approved personally. I think he would. But still, the bass head in me wishes more. But that's just me and my preference. Everything was sounding good. Joe's guitar, it's unique the way he plays. I think it's a 7-string guitar, and it's good. It's a lot of fun in this track. So, Go Go Penguins. I played a track. The Antidote is in the Poison. So, modern jazz at its best, dynamic, full of emotion, snappy bass. It's a fantastic, fun track to listen to. How well microdynamics are conveyed, and again, giving you the IAM's ability to convey that to the listener. That's what I'm listening for. Um, Ola had a decent job on this track. It was nice and tight, very smooth, just the right amount to make it a toe tapping replay. So good there. Blue Line by Massive Attack. 16 seconds in, someone's taken a big hit of the sticky green stuff. Does it come through as realistic? Also listening for the baritone here, the vocals, and it's such a soft track, and it's really hard to reproduce properly. So again, on this IEM, it just needed the more note weight again. There's that trade-off again. The vocals were clear and understandable. You could actually hear what the singing when I was playing, and I was so hard on the KB ear storm, I couldn't understand what they were singing. So that was a big fail, and why I didn't like that IEM. The Ola played it, and you could understand, and that was, that's what I was listening for, and two thumbs up. World's better technicalities over the storm at $2 more. So next one, a whiter shade of pale, Annie Lennox. Again, she's got a really cool voice. This track, one of my other jazz favorite artists, Jimmy Smith, he plays on a Hammond organ. This is a different one as well. This one is a Bach-inspired Hammond organ called an M102. I seriously love it. It's unique, and then you have Annie's voice, and it's very cool. How did the Ola do? Did a great job. Annie's voice was spot on, as the organ is as well. So give it a listen. I think you'd like it too, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Another Joe Satriani track, Yesterday's Yesterday. Very cool track. Eric, Joe, and Jim, they got together and they just started whistling at the beginning, and then they edited in another track over top of it with this 1,000 bugs that they recorded when they were walking through Italy. So it's a bit trippy. The three of them playing a different guitar, and you could totally hear it left, center, right, with depth, and that was really cool. And I'm listening to how well an IEM or headphone or whatever I'm listening to reproduces this. And the Ola did it with realistic effects. It sounded good. The whistling sounded, bang on. It was awesome. Shape of My Heart from Sting. You got to have some, I love differences of, I kind of gravitate towards male singers and female singers that have edge to their voice. Miley Cyrus, Annie Lennox, Melissa Etheridge, anything that's different, I'm a big fan of. Listening to the guitar pulls and slides, how well does this IEM give an emotional presentation of the mix between the vocals and the bass? So that's what I'm listening for here. In the Ola, nothing was out of balance, neutral sounding way. Didn't sound like anything was added or forced in any way. So, yep. Another one of my faves, Wishing You Would Stay. And this is sung by the Tea Party with a guest vocalist, Holly McNarland. I, again, met Holly a few times when I worked in the audio industry. And she's a very cool person. Love this track. With this song and this band, it was the first time the Tea Party has ever kind of had a guest vocalist, and how they recorded it. Holly McNarland has, again, that really cool, unique, great voice. I'm listening for Holly's voice in this track. It should be equal to the male vocals if it's played back well. So there's the male vocals and then her voice. They should be equal. And if they're not, then you can kind of tell the balance of the drivers. Is there enough high frequency energy or in that spectrum to give her voice the correct tonality? And is it played back where they're equal when it comes to the playback? So with this, I felt the Ola did not do a very good job in its tuning. Holly's voice is recessed. and it's harder to hear in the mix. The Ola seems to favor male vocals in this track, and I was left wanting more of Holly to be present in it. So, and again, that probably had to play into how the tuning is of this driver. I was just needing more, and it didn't do it for me. Last track, Avenue A, Tom Cochrane, Red Rider. This is live from the Symphony Sessions, one of my favorite albums that I can actually play and listen to the entire album. I think it's fantastic. This track, with more resolving IAMs, you can hear the guitar pulls, the slides. You get a sense of the big open spaciousness and grandeur. Now, can you hear that in the playback of the Ola? Not quite a fail for the Ola, but the drivers, it's showing its character weakness and tuning. Not a terrible knock against the Ola, especially at $18 price point, but it shows the compromise that they had to make using a less resolving LCP driver in this case. So back to the beginning of those components that they used, right? You could use more expensive driver components and make a more expensive IAM, and that's what you're going to hear in the replay here. So I got a couple comparisons to that I had. The KB Ear Storm. This thing is $16 to $17. I was really hard on this. I really was. As the pricing is so close, build quality is super poor. The sharp edges. I know somebody commented on my other video, that one, saying it's your ear, but I've had a lot of IEMs in my ears. I've never had an IEM where I put in my ear and I could actually feel the sharp edges. It's just not finished off well. And there's just no, I mean, it's, again, there actually can't be an excuse because an Ola is $2 more and it's a worlds better, right? So sound wise, the Storm comparison had an elevated bass, but it was muddy, it was not nearly as articulate, refined sounding as the Ola for sure. I find the Storm has some, it does have some peaks. It makes it sibilant and sharp for me on certain tracks, and in an unnatural way. And yeah, moving on. Tangzhou Shimin Li. This one's $35. Has a similar bass texture actually to it, just more. So where the difference between the two IMs would be is the vocals seem to be more recessed, not forward in the mix. But they do have extra note weight. In the stage, I found it not as exciting. Overall replay of all the test tracks that I listed. At twice the price, you're getting a super wicked looking metal shell. But is it worth twice the price? In sound wise, I don't think so. I think the Ola is the better buy. You would buy the Shimin Li for its bling factor. Kiwi Ears Cadenza, $35 as well. I had a bunch of these kind of Harman-tuned IMs sitting here. Rosefinch, Tin Hi-Fi C3, and I basically sent those all off to our review group, the Canucks Audioholics review group. And I kept the cadenza because I thought it was the best out of all of those. Here's how I'd compare the two. The cadenza has an unapologetic bass. It uses a beryllium coated driver. I love these kind of drivers. They're faster, but not in a way to make it muddy. I think the driver of the cadenza for the price is a banger. It really is. Two things in the tuning that happen when you add in more note weight with the bottom end. One is the bass hits have more volume. Male vocals have more heft to them. Guitar slides, pulls have more weight. This again all comes as a compromise as female vocals then kind of sound thicker as well too, right? So now our female vocals, that huskiness, is it too much? And does it sound natural? I think the cadenza is a good compromise. It adds a little bit of the note weight to the female vocals, but I think they still sound pretty darn good. So soundstage is where I think it killed the Ola. That was a harsh word. I don't think it killed it, but it definitely is better, wider, deeper, more dynamic. Without going too crazy, look on Avenue A, Tom Cochran. You definitely hear the guitar slides with more bass depth and decay than the Ola does. For me, that's kind of my typically preferred tuning. But I'm not going to knock the Ola for that. It is tuned the way it is. And it really comes down to personal preference. What do you want in your playback of your IAM? That how it's going to do your library, right? That's kind of a summary of the comparisons. Just final thoughts for me. I thought the Ola was an overall smooth operator, and that's kind of what, if you read all their propaganda, that's what they were going for. And I think they did 100% bang up job on their goal. They did it. That's exactly what they were going for. It's exactly what you hear. And TruthEar, honestly, two thumbs up. You did a fantastic job. Yeah. The Ola doesn't try to boost the bass in an unnatural way or the highs in any way. Some people would consider this neutral tuning. That's not my definition. I did a video of what I consider, balanced and what's considered neutral. I think the Ola does a very good job across the board when it comes to doing instruments and vocals. Like, it did it all very nicely and smoothly and non-fatiguing. So all of that is pretty good. I think where the Ola falls down, limitations of the driver and the materials used. I think honestly, yeah, TruthEar did a fantastic job of maximizing the potential of this driver. They used these materials to achieve an end goal, and they did it. So that's pretty good. And again, it achieves its end target curve. I think the big question is, it's not an all rounder. Is it for everyone? No. Forget you bass heads, don't even look. Treble heads, nope, not going there. Should you have it in your library? Yeah. Honestly, $18. Yeah. Give that some mindful thought of how much it is and what it competes with at its price point. I mean, forget its price point. How it sounds, yeah, pretty awesome. With that, I'm done. Hope it was insightful. You enjoyed my new format, and thank you. Tone Deaf Monk.